Welcome to my personal opinion. My name is JM, and these are definitely my opinions. I just did a video trying to cover kind of my background in technology, my background in IT, trying to cover 30 years in a very condensed package. Apologize if I came off a bit stiff. I get it. I tried to script it so I didn't wander too long, but hopefully I got the message across of what I know, where my knowledge comes from, and whether or not I'm really worth listening to on technology. In this video, I'd like to cover a topic that I've actually dealt with quite a few times. I've been asked a few times, and that's about if you want to get into a desktop PC, should you buy, should you build, or should you work with a custom vendor? And I think it's an important question because there are ways to get down bad rabbit holes that you may have a hard time getting out of, and that could leave you frustrated with your decision on whether or not you choose one of those three options. Now, I say there's these three options because you have the first option really comes down to, do you want to go to a big name brand and purchase a fully built PC ready out of the box? You set it down, you fire it up, and off you go, which is not a bad option for some. I've done it before. I've actually bought PCs before and learned very quickly what I thought of buying a box brand name. And I'm not saying that there's necessarily anything wrong for some people, but for me, not knowing what was in it and not being able to swap pieces out, not being able to have some control over it was a little bit difficult. The second option really comes down to the other extreme, which is to buy all the parts yourself, buy motherboards, buy CPUs, buy video cards, buy memory, put it all together yourself and make it work. That's a really great option for two things. One, you want to not only know what's in your computer, and you want to have a say of what's in your computer, but also learn how those parts came together. And I mean, it gives you the absolute control of the situation. Then the third option is the one that I will say that I've been choosing for my last few systems, which is work with a custom company that you can ask for the parts, pull them in, and have a system built to the specifications that you want. Now, the reason I do this, we'll start with the first reason is warranty. You get a warranty, with the brand system, the one that's all pre-built and ready to go. Usually, certainly, we can all, you can argue about different companies and their level of success with their support, but you usually get some kind of support that allows that if something goes wrong with the system, you have somebody to go to. With the second option of building it yourself, that can become complicated. You can actually run into problems. Remember, the company wants to protect itself. And if you're going in there, buying all the parts and putting it together yourself, questions will always arise. Are you using ESD protection, electrostatic discharge? Are you really putting the parts in like they should be? Do you know what you're doing? And everybody needs to learn somewhere. That's still, I'm not saying that's a bad option, but realize you can run into some troubles when it comes to warranty. Also, it's how much time you want to put into it to troubleshoot the situation. For example, if memory goes bad, are you ready to swap out parts and snap them in and make them work? The third option kind of is the merging of the two. It's working with somebody who can not only help you in some cases, suggest the best parts, but will ultimately go with, in many cases, the parts that you want. You get somebody else building the system, somebody diagnosing the build, and somebody dealing with the warranty if things go south. So it's kind of this middle ground thing that I think can offer some people some comfort while also offering some control. Now, when it comes to building a PC, which some people still might want to do, I definitely say it's easier today to build than it was when I was building systems in the 90s and the 2000s. I probably haven't built a system myself in a couple of years. I still pay attention to the industry. I still can work on a machine that's having problems, especially if I don't have a warranty on it. But it is so nice to have somebody else figure some of that stuff out. But I will say it is also easier to build APC today. You don't have to deal with IRQs. You don't have to deal with SCSI IDs and terminating SCSI chains. And the compatibility of the different parts is significantly better than it used to be. Certainly, you don't have as much of this. Well, if you buy this particular brand, it only works with this mother. I mean, a lot of stuff has gotten a lot better. One classic thing I give as an example is, you used to buy a case, and the case would have this just spaghetti of wires that connect to things like turbo buttons, which they don't have anymore, uh, locks with keys, which we don't do anymore, and you also had reset buttons and power buttons, and all those indicator lights all had to be connected to the motherboard. And what was funny is it was the spaghetti with all these jumper cables or the little jumpers, and the jumpers would have to go on the pens, and they were all disconnected. You had many different ways that many different motherboards did it. Today, I've seen a lot more where it's all a single block, and you just stick it right on. So, there's a lot of definite improvement over the years. So it's not as daunting of a task. It's not as daunting of a situation. I mean, I also have to throw in there, we used to deal with every few years, somebody would try something else on how CPUs would be connected to the motherboards. There was an era that I called it the candy bar mode, where a Pentium, I think it was the Pentium 2, was on a card, and it was like a black block that snapped onto the motherboard, and so you had to keep up with all that, and that would lead me into a second thing to make sure that people think about. Um, you know, uh, be careful when you're deciding on one of these choices when it comes to upgradability and forward progress on your machine. Best laid plans, almost probably 80% of my machines had to have major rehauls when I finally upgraded them. And the perception that you would just partly, piece by piece upgrade parts, it can happen, but don't build or make a decision based on that, because there's a lot of times you think you're going to make upgrades, and some major change happens, because it still happens, not maybe as much as it used to, but when they were changing from pin grid arrays to ball grid arrays to all these different methods of attaching parts to systems. But it's happening. There are even when it comes to power supplies are changing, and different ways and techniques for these things to communicate are changing. There's so much to think about, so many things to consider, that it really comes down to, if you want to build a system, make sure that you want to build a system, and that it's for maybe a learning experience, or really truly knowing what's going into your system. One thing I would definitely say is that the cost, I don't think, is as great as it used to be. When I was building systems, there was huge cost savings to building them yourself. I think the margins are so razor thin now that the differences may only be much smaller than they used to be. So building your own versus going to a custom shop and having them build it, I don't think in every case you're going to see a striking difference, but you definitely can find deals and do things that maybe you're not going to see in other situations. So a lot there. I mean, ultimately, as somebody who's been doing this for so long, I kind of like having somebody else build it. That's just me. Um, and it's kind of nice, like I said, for the warranty situation, to have somebody else figure it out when things go wrong. It doesn't completely remove you from the loop, because it's still your system. You're still managing it. You're still working with it. But for the most part, I do see deals where they say, hey, we'll build this machine, we'll put it together, but if you decide to upgrade a part or something to maintain your warranty, it might be you have to come back to us, or we'll break the warranty. So you can have some different situations and different scenarios. And with the group I particularly use, they've asked me to try to avoid opening it up and messing with the innards. I mean, certainly I can look at it. In this case, of course, I have a glass front like everybody else does, but um, for the most part, I do avoid messing with much because there's not much to mess with. Another point to consider is just keeping up with it all. I watch a lot of channels, and one of the things I'm learning as I'm making these videos is to make sure my audience is as wide as possible and avoiding too much techno babble. And I know that when you watch some of these major tech channels, a lot of them kind of start throwing around a lot of terms, a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas. And sometimes they explain it to a degree, but sometimes you're just like, wow, it becomes, I think, for some people, almost a word salad. It's just all these acronyms and names and thoughts and model numbers, and it can get a little daunting. And having somebody on your side to build the system and understanding, kind of guiding you through. I would recommend that whoever you choose is somebody willing to sit down with you and help you make those decisions and tell you why they would suggest other decisions. Be very careful. Don't get sold stuff you don't need. But really, in this rambling, I guess I'm really saying, at the end of the day, think about why you want to build a system. Think about what you want to deal with and what you don't. Think about the warranty, think about the protections, and really ask yourself, how much do you need to be involved? It's okay to want to be involved, but it's okay you're not like some, newbie if you decide you don't want to be involved with some of the aspects of building out a system. So that's my thoughts on that. I hope that was helpful. This is the kind of content I'd like to hit. Some of it will be more consumer. I do plan on doing some things on cloud computing, those types of topics too. So if you want to hear more from me, I really would love it if you would like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Eventually I keep saying this, I do want to get an editor so that I can free flow a little more and maybe have a little more polished of a look. But that one's hard too, because I've had a few people feedback that they like just a conversational video. I hope everybody has a great time, and I wish everybody the best, and I will see you on the next video. Have a great day. These are my opinions.